earlier Chuck sent me a synopsis of your book. And to my horror, I realized the synopsis of your book was longer than the book I actually wrote a couple of years ago. And so, between the size of your book and the size of that microphone that you're using, I must say, this has been a very humbling half hour so far.
That's good. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't do any bragging on the basis of the size of microphones, but I will go page for page for you on the size of a book.
It's incredible.
There's a great line from William Penn, and I think it applies to history. When he wrote his frame of government in Philadelphia, he said, "Take a government, be it ever so bad. If the people be good, they will correct it. Take a government, if it is ever so good, if the people be bad, they will corrupt it." And that's the truth of history. Take a history, be it ever so good. If the people are bad, they'll corrupt it. Take a history ever so wicked and bad. If the people are good, they will make it a benefit and a blessing. And so I'm hoping that through the dialogue such as you're helping us to do here, that we will benefit by engaging the good and the bad. That's why we talked about Washington's slavery, but it's also why we talked about Washington's courage. We need to look at that and see the imperfections and completeness and then say, how do we grow and become better? Because history is the greatest teacher. These are real people living in our world, facing circumstances different than ours, but are timeless because courage, character, conscience, faithfulness, struggle, life, and death are true of every generation and will be so as long as there's this world.
Speaking of time, I want to be respectful of yours, but I do have another question or two. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm on a roll for you. You got me going now.
Good, because I want to bring it back to me, as I so often do, specifically to my dad, who I mentioned, who was a history teacher. He's 89 today, wow. And back in 1976, he had a modest role in a production of 1776.
Wow.
I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yep.
He played the secretary.
Did
Thompson.
He really? Wow.
Yeah. And in the play, he would read dispatches from Washington to the Congress. And it wasn't by any stretch the largest role in that play, but when I look back on it now and see my dad as this character, Thompson, reading these beautifully written dispatches, and just there's a line later in the play where Thompson says, there are times when I feel as though he's talking just to me.
Yeah, right. I remember that line.
And so this is my dad playing this character. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about who Thompson was, because as I recall, he's a bit more than a secretary to a bunch of noblemen.
Oh, that's a great question. So Charles Thompson has the unique distinction of being the only clerk of the Continental Congress. He's the only one who did the work. So he was there from day one until they rolled over to the new constitutional government. So he had the bird's eye view of everything that happened from the inside. He was not a member of Congress. He was, in fact, a servant of Congress keeping the records. So his contribution is extraordinary. First of all, he was from outside of Philadelphia, so he was a local. He was a landowner, so actually there's a high school that's named for his farm. Harriton High School here in Philadelphia bears the name of his farm. He was a Presbyterian elder, so as a Presbyterian minister, I take a little pride in that. And he was a classic scholar. He's the only person to ever translate the Septuagint into English. Well, what's the Septuagint?
I know.
Oh,
it's Greek. It's Greek chapters, like the first chunk of chapters in the Greek Bible.
That's right. Well, it's the Hebrew Bible. So basically, the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament from Hebrew. So it's a translation of a translation, Hebrew into Greek, and Thompson did it into English. No one's ever done that before. So he stands alone as unique historian of ancient literature. He's also the man who proposed that we would have the first official seal of the United States. As the secretary, he was part of the paper chase. Documents would come and go. And the question is, which one is official? You never knew. He said, we need to have something that only on the final document, you press it, and that seal says, this is it. This is the autograph by which we're going to deal with the rest of the country. So the story of the Great Seal of America is a direct result. So when you look at the back of a dollar bill, you'll see some mottos, E pluribus unum. You'll find Novus Ordo Seclorum. You'll find Annuit Coeptus. All three of those are classical phrases Charles Thompson found and brought to bear on the committee.
You're kidding me.
No, absolutely. So he was a classic scholar. And what's very interesting, so the story of the seals, you need to do a show on the Great Seal of America. That's worthy of everybody's got a dollar bill and no one even knows what they're looking at. So we need
that'd
to
be
do
great.
This. So, but bottom line is, when you look at the back of a dollar bill, that seal that has the front and back, the back side of the seal had a vision that was created by a committee of a triumvirate of three great founders. It was Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams. Man, you can't get any more powerhouse than that. And you know what they proposed? They proposed that the Great Seal would be the story of Pharaoh being swallowed by the Red Sea collapsing with Moses with outstretched arm, because they, too, understood the idea of providence. They were looking to the biblical story to say the great Atlantic Ocean has spared us from the British destroying our freedom as we have honored God under his law. What a beauty. Now, that didn't make it. So the final version is the pyramid and the eye, but the great emphasis on providence is still there, where the word annuit coeptus. So Chuck and Mike, I'm going to ask you, okay, there it is right there. How many of those dollars have you ever had in your hand? I'm sure quite a few by this time.
Literally
dozens. 3.
Dozens, Doctor.
At least 3 or 4 through the years, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the word annuit coeptus means? Right above the eye in the triangle.
No,
I do not.
Okay. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I've been asking people this for a lot of years. I had a group of the Kingdom Advisors touring Philadelphia with me. And, they're in the Larry Burkett and Ron Blue Ministry of Financial Advising. So they have a Christian background, sort of, with advising. And I said, you people deal in money, take a look at this dollar bill. Do you know what this says? And all the hands were held down. Nobody knew. I said, how can it be? You are money advisors. You have all these resources, and you don't even know what's on the back of a dollar bill. And one man raised his hand, said, that's easy. That's because I only deal with $100 bills. I said, okay, you got me there, but you've had a dollar bill in your hand. How's it possible that the most public document that every American holds again and again, from the poorest to the richest, and we don't know what's on it? Now, the reason I'm saying this comes from Charles Thompson. Charles Thompson gave us annuit coeptus. And what does it mean? It translates, he has nodded, annuit, you can hear nodded, on our undertakings. It is the eye of God the Father of Providence looking at the formation of a new country. And they're saying in the biggest letters, in capital letters, so you won't miss it, he has smiled on our, and in the Continental Congress record, they put the words, we select these images because of, quote, the many signal interpositions of divine providence on behalf of the American cause. So that's Washington's doctrine of providence, the Declaration of Independence doctrine, and it totally demolishes the notion that America was founded as a deist country. That seal says God was active in our history.
Wow.
And it makes my dad's role in 1776 all the more interesting.
And
way to bring it home, Mike.
Thank you.
And so you need to say, Dad, they didn't give you the best part. You should have explained what you did.
Tell me again the exact translation.